welcome to another edition of Cookalong with Katie from Cookery Doodle Doo, and we're going to make some quick cracker mac today. So it's basically macaroni cheese, but we're going to put a nice crunchy topping on it using some cream crackers. This isn't a kind of really complex sort of oozy mac and cheese that you might spend hours at the stove mixing and stirring and making a roux, making a cheese sauce from scratch. This is a much quicker, easier version that you can literally just go into the kitchen, and half an hour later you can have it on the table in front of the kids, in front of the family. So this is a much kind of quicker, snappier version of macaroni cheese. So we're going to start with an egg. So those of you who've watched these videos or cooked with me before, you know how I teach children to crack an egg, but I'm just going to show you. There's two stages. We tap the egg until we hear the sound change. We hear the hole in the shell. We don't need to keep tapping and looking because we can hear that happen. Okay, so I'm just going to do that now. Oh, instantly you heard that change. We find the hole and we give it a little thumbs up because we're really pleased we've found that hole. Okay, then our thumbs have a little kiss and they go into the eggshell together. Okay, but the egg makes them have an argument. So those thumbs are going to come away from each other, bringing the shell with them, and the egg just plops into the bowl underneath. Okay, so that is how we crack an egg. Just wipe my fingers a little bit. I'm just going to take this fork and I'm just going to mix that egg together until the two different colours of egg are the same colour. Mixed together. Okay, it doesn't need to be really well beaten, but just like that, so that you've no longer got the white and the yolk, you've just got one beaten egg in there. Okay, so I'm going to leave the fork in. I'm just going to use my scales to measure, but you can use a measuring jug as well. I'm just going to put in 100 grams or 100 millilitres of evaporated milk. Okay, evaporated milk is the one you get in cans next to the condensed milk, but it's not condensed milk. Okay, it's got no sugar in it. Just put my lid back on. Okay, so you definitely don't want condensed milk, that'll be too sweet for this. But what that evaporated milk does, because it's a lot thicker, it binds with the egg, and that will make you a nice thick cheese sauce without needing flour and butter and all of that. So I've just mixed those together. I'm going to add in 100 grams of grated mature cheddar cheese. You want a nice strong cheese for this, you won't taste the cheese otherwise. So mild cheddar doesn't really have a place in this recipe. There we go. I'm just going to mix those together, just the fork's fine. It'll feel like it kind of doesn't want to mix because the cheese is a bit reluctant, but it really doesn't matter. It's going to melt into the sauce as it cooks. Okay, so just coat the cheese with that sauce. And then we're just going to add a bit of seasoning just to help that flavour along. So first of all, a nice big pinch of salt. Some black pepper. Obviously do that as you want to. And then I've got a nutmeg here. So this is what a nutmeg looks like. It's just like a little hard, rock hard little nut, and all you do is grate it. So you can see I've had some of this before, and you need this side on the grater. You probably don't use this side very often, but I'm just going to hold this very, very carefully so I don't grate my fingers, and I'm going to put in a decent amount of nutmeg. If you don't have the whole nutmeg like this, if you've got a jar of grated nutmeg, then I would say it's probably about 1/4 of a teaspoon, maybe not quite that much. There we go, it's quite a warming spice. We're just going to mix those things through. If you don't like nutmeg or you don't have it, you could put some mustard in instead. Just maybe 1/2 teaspoon or so, depending on how much you like it. There we go, so it's not essential if you don't have the nutmeg. Just make sure that's really well mixed. And then what I've got here is some macaroni that I've already boiled. So this was 100 grams of macaroni when it was the dry weight. Now it's been boiled, it's about 250 grams. You could use any leftover pasta that you've got cooked already as well. You want about 250 grams of cooked pasta. Okay, so that's going to go in. If you're cooking this from scratch, as it were, that might still be warm, that's absolutely fine. if it's been pre-cooked, it might just take a little bit longer in the oven, that's all, if you've got it really cold, particularly if it's come straight out of the fridge. So you just need to bake it in the oven until it's nice and hot and bubbling and sort of golden on top, which will obviously be a bit quicker if the pasta's already hot. Okay, so there we go. That is the macaroni cheese mix already done. So I've got a baking dish here. I'm just going to pour this in. If you want to, you can butter it first just to help stop it sticking to the dish. I'm not going to bother, but depends how much you like washing up. Okay, that all goes in, and then what naturally tends to happen is you'll get some cheese left at the bottom of the bowl. Which basically means you sort of get a bit of extra cheese on top, just to help it go golden and lovely. So don't worry that you've left a load of cheese behind in the bowl, that's kind of a good thing. Just spread it out across the top. Get it all in there, we want it nice and cheesy. There we go. And then just to make the top really lovely and crunchy, what I'm going to do is just get a couple of cream crackers, just normal ordinary cheese board crackers, and I'm going to scrunch them up. If you're doing this with kids, you might want a slightly bigger bowl actually, and then they can get their hands right inside. You don't want powder, you want kind of chunky bits. And these are going to crisp up on top of the bake and just give you a lovely texture on top, a bit of contrast. There we go. So you can see the bits don't need to be tiny. You just want something that you can be able to spread all over the top. That'll do. I'm not even going to measure this in, I'm just going to put in a sort of a drizzle of olive oil. It's about a teaspoon, something like that. I'm just getting a spoon, I'm just going to mix that around so the crackers get covered in the olive oil. You could use melted butter as well. And that will just mean they get lovely and crunchy on top. If you want to, you could even add a bit of extra salt into here. I'm cooking for grown-ups just at the minute, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. There we go. And once that's lovely and coated, just going to come back to the dish. I'm just going to scatter that over the top. It won't cover it completely. It'll just add a bit of extra crunch and texture. Obviously, traditionally on top of macaroni cheese, you can put sliced tomatoes, or you could mix in different vegetables. You could maybe put some lovely cooked cauliflower or broccoli or peas or something through here if you wanted to. This is just a very sort of basic recipe, which you can amend as you wish. We're just going to serve this with a salad. So there we go. This is going to go in the oven now. I've got the oven really, really hot at 220 degrees. As I said, if the pasta was hot, it would cook even more quickly. I expect this is probably going to take about 15-20 minutes just to get lovely and hot and bubbling and golden. You just want to make sure it's really piping hot in the middle, and then it's ready to eat. So I will show you that in a minute. Okay, so the time has just gone off. Let's have a look. There we go. So you can see it's kind of sizzling and bubbling away. You can hear it. That is lovely and golden and delicious. So, must be lunchtime. See you next week.